Alright, so I've got that piece that I had talked about with the nice natural split. And if you don't have a baton, you can always utilize a method like this here. Okay, and in many instances, you can just twist, just as I've done. Okay, I'll just keep going down just a little bit there, just to get a better twist on it. Usually at that point, you can pry it open, and we've got two nice pieces there. So the nice thing about, you know, a large knife also is, in many instances, you might not need a baton. You can still do some heavy work. This is all I'm doing here. And I'm not wreaking havoc on the tree either. I want to split this again. See, there we go. Be careful of your hands, be careful of other things. Whenever you're exerting force, always try to think about what would happen if it kept moving in that direction. I've got a nice piece here. And, well, as I've shown before, some of the technique that we can use for getting our feather sticks to happen. I always start off by drawing at a nice distance like this here, making big, long pulls in the material. As the feathering gets on, it will the pulls will get shorter and shorter. Just trying to plane out some, you know, nice surface. This knife has not been sharpened at all for this. It hasn't been sharpened in a while, actually. It was sharpened before I had stripped it. And since I've stripped it, I have used it. Matter of fact, today I was splitting out a nice big, it's probably about 12 or 14 inch piece of seasoned maple to make into a cutting board. And I use this knife right here as a froe. It's got good geometry, and you're going to want that in your big blade. And sometimes, you know, I mean, this is obviously not a fighting Bowie, although any of those things can be done with a fighting Bowie. I have a video where I used the Von Tempsky and you know, did a myriad of camp tasks with it too. So, but in general, you're you know, basically going to want to gravitate more towards the very simplistic, utilitarian-looking Bowie knives. All right, more of the working Bowie knives may suit you better. But you can get it done. I mean, it's not like it's a big hassle. If I were to have the you know, the Bark River 1909 Michigan Bowie, I've used that before. I've owned two. I still own one of them. That was a pleasure to use, and that was a little ornate, but it also had some very utilitarian features in it. But the Von Tempsky, I'd never feel undergunned with a knife like the Von Tempsky. That's for sure. I would never feel like, oh man, how am I ever going to be able to start a camp with the Von Tempsky? Would not underestimate it at all. Of course, having the good geometry means that, you know, we don't have to worry so much about how amazingly sharp the edge of this can be, because the geometry, even when the edge is, you know, razor sharp, the geometry of this is still going to determine how it's going to function. So in a Bowie like this, or the BK9, you get a good good geometry to work with. This one here being a full flat grind, I would imagine I see a lot of people, I've never had the pleasure of using them, but I see a lot of people like the Cold Steel Trailmaster. I think that's a 5/16 blade, if I'm right. Beast of a blade, and that's full flat grind, just as this blade here is. The 1909 Michigan Bowie that I had owned by Bark River, and like I said, I still own one, that's a full height, basically convex grind. Leave some nice deep notches in there. So I mean, it's a good hardwood feather stick there to whip up. Hopefully done right, I'll only need to make one. So over here to my left is a place where I have made fire before, and I'm gonna make it now. I hope it's visible. This is always a good stop out here in the swamp. It's a nice open patch. Let's see here. Yeah, nothing like getting your fire going here. You know, it's probably just several hours before it starts getting, you know, too dark to where you want to be crashing through some brush and different things. So it's always good to get a little something going ahead of time. You can always let it smolder and stoke it up later if you don't want to go through a lot of your wood, but you want to continue moving about. But at least if you've sort of started it and you've got something going and smoldering, you can leave it for a little while and, you know, go about the rest of your time. So, well, you know, we've demonstrated several techniques in terms of Bowie knives for the Woodsman. And, you know, this is obviously a great one. As I said, I'm not intending to review this blade here in particular, but this is the Ontario SP5 Survival Bowie. I do recommend it. I guess for all purposes, I did sort of just review it for you, but this is a good one. You don't need me to tell you that it is. There's a lot of users out there that have had these for decades now that they've been on the market, and heck of a blade. Heck of a blade. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.